Oh, I didn't see you standing there. I'm Evan Laurent, and welcome back to Film Forecasters, EOP's open film debate segment. It's arguably the best time of year, Halloween. And with every Halloween season on TV, you see more and more horror films make their way on cable. Today, we're going to debate which horror villains are the best, the worst, underrated. We're just going to discuss horror today. I'm joined by Blake Bashero, Ryan Peters, and live from New York, it is not Saturday night, but Lindsay Carson, who's going to be answering on some mobile device or some video device, and she's going to send us our answers. So without further ado, are you ready to get spooky?
Yeah.
Ryan, who is your favorite horror villain?
So mine's a little bit unconventional. I'm not a big slasher guy, so my favorite horror villain or horror monster would definitely be The Thing from the movie The Thing. It's such an imposing creature, and the fact it can just shapeshift into whoever it wants to be is quite terrifying. So
something creepy about that is, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, you don't know who the villain is. It could be your best buddy who's taking that shape of the creature, or it could be the dog, the seemingly innocent dog. So that's an interesting one. John Carpenter has a lot of stuff on his resume, and that is probably one of his best, arguably his best horror film produced. But The Thing, 1982, one or two. Yeah. Blake.
Right. I probably have to say my favorite one is Pennywise, the 2017 to 2019 version. It's just the newest movie adaptations make him look even more scarier, especially with the new movie that just came out.
It's also he's literally basically the definition of what you're afraid of.
Yeah.
He takes the form of what your biggest fear, and he can shapeshift like the Thing. So you got to watch your back. Don't turn your back on Pennywise, because you might turn around and it might be your biggest nightmare.
Yeah.
Out of the horror characters such as Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, any reoccurring character in a series, which one do you think has the best franchise? It can be literal, critical, or just your own opinion.
I'd say Michael Myers. I've seen the most out of him. Once again, I'm not the biggest slasher guy, but I really admire John Carpenter and the way that he's able to stage this slasher where it's terrifying, but it's not necessarily there's not much to the character, but he's still this imposing force in the movies.
He's not even credited as Michael Myers in the first film. He's just the shape in the credits. So he's the embodiment. That's what John Carpenter intended for the first film. He was supposed to be the embodiment of evil, and it can be anywhere, in any time, any place, in a suburban neighborhood or in the city. So Michael Myers and Halloween franchise is your favorite. I know when you talk about critical reception with horror movies, you're splitting hairs there. There's not many. But Blake, before I get into my little small tangent, what is your favorite horror franchise?
Franchise? It's a tough one. I probably would have to go with the Alien franchise. It has had its ups and downs, but it still remained pretty good, even though people don't really consider Alien as a horror type of movie. I do.
Yeah, it's similar with Predator and Alien.
Mm-hmm.
The first film, Terminator and Alien. The first film can be a horror film if you think about it, just a generic stalker. This Alien is basically the psycho, the serial killer in that film, like the Terminator. And then the sequel boosts it up and makes it the more of an action take on the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But critical reception, if you include, I know some people don't include Hannibal Lecter as The Silence of the Lambs as a horror series, but as him as the character, the psycho of that series, he would be the best critically received, I guess. He's the only one really that got Oscar. That movie won 5 Oscars, The Silence of the Lambs. The rest of the series didn't didn't do much, but by default, I guess he would be the best critically acclaimed serial killer in his franchise, and he isn't even the main killer in that.
Yeah. To kind of go along with that, I know the original Frankenstein movies are beloved. Like, I'm pretty sure they have like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. So the classic like Universal monsters also kind of get that rap, but like in modern like horror cinema, definitely Silence of the Lambs is one of the biggest critically like acclaimed.
And with every franchise, Halloween's good, not critically, but fans, obviously, it's a classic.
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street, I know it got good reviews. The first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's the original in every series, it seems like. There's not many sequels that, in horror franchises, that rise up to their predecessor, except The Conjuring. Like Conjuring 1 and 2 both have good scores, but...
Yeah. Or Evil Dead 2 is kind of like everything that Evil Dead 1 was, but amplified and made better. So there's like always like a diamond in the rough, but like most of the time the original is always the best.
With another example is Friday the 13th. The first one, it isn't great by any means. It's actually kind of a Halloween ripoff. But the sequels, even like Part 6, where the Jason lives, it takes the approach where it doesn't take itself too seriously, and it goes with the cheesy, the fun experience of the movie. They know they're not going to get an Oscar-worthy performance out of any of these actors, and they just have fun and make it basically a dark comedy movie. And Friday the 13th is another exception where the first one isn't the best. And the movies that don't take themselves seriously are kind of the ones that aren't as good in that series. And it's best when it just goes all out ridiculousness.
Yeah.
Just absurdity.
Are there any horror villains that you could think of that do not necessarily get the recognition they deserve? You go to a store, you see merchandise. You go to a costume store, people are dressing up for them as Halloween. Is there any characters you could think of you don't see much that they should get more recognition?
I probably have to say Norman Bates from the Psycho series. It is an old movie, obviously, but
Considering how
it
inspired, that was pretty much the domino effect. That started, you could argue that or Halloween, but that movie inspired Halloween, and then Halloween just was
tipping
just
point.
opened the door
Yeah.
for all the other psycho killers of the 80s. Yeah, in the late 70s, early 80s. Yeah, you don't see many Norman
No,
Bates
you don't.
walking around.
No.
Yeah, that's one that I'd pick would be, you don't see any at all like Norman Bates, would be Candyman
All right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
from Clive Barker's, who directed Hellraiser. He also directed Candyman, the urban legend. You say his name 5 times, he comes with the hook, and you're done after that. So
How many times did you say his name?
5.
Oh.
Yeah. So
He's going to come after us now.
are there any characters that you've seen them and then people hype them up like they're the scariest villain that, oh man, you don't mess with them, and then you watch the movie or you see them and you just think, is it really that? Are they really that scary?
Honestly, I'd probably have to go with Jason on this one. He just doesn't seem that scary to me. Yeah.
Especially his earlier portrayals, I think, when he's kind of bumbling around and
Yeah.
it's just a dude. You could tell, obviously, when he gets hit, he
He
over
falls,
dramatizes his actions.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. He's just kind of a guy in a hockey mask, and then it gets to the point of the absurdity where it's like over the top, and it's like it's really fun, but it's not necessarily like scary. I'd
To
say.
the point where he's in space.
Yeah.
He's jumping bodies from person to person, and yeah, that gets kind of ridiculous. One for me, have either of you seen Hellraiser?
I haven't.
I have
No.
not either.
Have you seen the cover?
Yeah.
Like, you know
Yes, I
who's
have.
in it?
Yeah.
Pinhead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when I first saw the cover, I thought, man, this guy's the big bad. He's the main killer of this movie. He's in it for about 10 minutes, maybe. And it's not what you think. The first movie, when I went into it, I thought it was just this torture-heavy, gore-heavy. The first one isn't, and it's about a psycho killer who escapes. He's not a good guy. He escapes from hell, and Pinhead and his group of people try and get him back. But yeah, Pinhead's only in the movie 10 minutes. I don't even think he has a kill in it. He might have one, but you have to watch the movie to see, because I love the movie, I love the character, I love the look of him, but after seeing it, I just don't think he's as threatening, because he's kind of an anti-hero in the movie. He's not bad, not good. But yeah, that's my pick for the underrated. What's your favorite horror movie, while we're talking about Halloween now? Just scary stuff.
My personal favorite has to be Evil Dead 2. It's the first like horror movie that I watched, and I was like, this is actually like really fun. I didn't watch horror movies growing up, so whenever I did get around to watching Evil Dead 2, it was like, okay, they had like a terribly small budget, but they were able to do so much with it and just have so much fun in like making this movie. And every time I rewatch the movie, I always have just as much fun as I did the first time.
All right, no, that's a tough one. I don't know, I probably have to go with Frankenstein, or like the old Dracula movies. I really like
Classic
those.
Universal.
Yeah, it's like choppy, it's weird, but it's a fun type of horror movie.
Those are like the founders of the whole genre.
Yeah.
So mine's personally, my favorite is the original Halloween, for the reasons you've said. It's just an inspiring movie, just with a little budget, and what they were able to do, and what they weren't able to capture with any of the sequels with huge budgets. So that's my personal favorite. Now, Lindsay, if you're up there somewhere, tell us what your favorite scary movie, favorite villain, whatever. We'll give you a little bit of time. Go ahead.
It's Lindsay from New York. I am here to answer horror movie questions. My favorite horror movie villain is probably Jason from the Friday the 13th movie films. What? It's probably Jason from the Friday the 13th franchise, because he wears a hockey mask, and also he's just kind of ruthless. If you've watched all the movies, he kills people in very interesting situations. So, yeah, that's how I'm going to describe that. The best horror franchise, like I said, I like the Friday the 13th movies. For slasher villain, I mean, Friday the 13th would count for that too, but I also like Nightmare on Elm Street. I think it's funny, which I know you're not supposed to think that about horror movies. Insidious was okay too. The first one was pretty good. The second one wasn't that good. And the scariest thing about the third one was when the girl's MacBook falls off her bed. So I'm gonna have to go with Friday the 13th and then Nightmare on Elm Street. An underrated horror villain. Probably Freddy Krueger, I would think, because more people talk about like Jason and Mike Myers. So yeah, I'm gonna say Freddy Krueger, even though he's well liked, but I don't think he's liked enough. What horror villain don't I find scary? I do not find Babadook to be scary. I think he's funny. Maybe it's because he was made into a meme a couple of years ago, but I think he's funny, and he hasn't ever really scared me. Or like The Exorcist, that's not necessarily a villain, but like the demon in that. The Exorcist, I don't think is scary at all. So that's what I have to say about horror movies. All right. Bye.
That is all the time that we have. Join us whenever we're back on the debate panel